What do you think? When a change needs to be made, I'm all for making one change for that position and not making 3 or 4. I was actually chatting to Liam McHale last week about John Maughan, and he was just saying that, in 96 and even in 97, when somebody was out, Maughan even admitted that he made 3 or 4 changes to fix one position, and it can kind of mess things up, and sometimes you're taking guys out of their best position to try and jig things around. I think moving someone in full back and just making that one switch is probably the best thing to do. But funny enough, as you say, Prunty didn't go particularly well on Shannon last year. Prunty was in all-star form before that Clare game, had been brilliant on Galan in the Munster final. So, maybe he's not naturally suited to him anyway, and maybe someone else would do a better job on him. But I think the fact that Shane O'Donnell's not going to be there as well does help Waterford's case a bit. You're taking away another inside threat. It would look like, while they might have Ryan Taylor or somebody else inside, it would look like that long ball to Shannon is one of their main outlets in that full forward line. So Waterford are going to need someone who's fairly decent in the air. Would it be a runner that Kevin Moran could slip back? Maybe, I'm not sure. It's interesting. It'd be interesting to see what they do, though.
But it kind of tells you everything you need to know about Kevin Moran, that even crossed your mind. And I hear you say it, and I'm like, oh, you wouldn't want to. But then again, he's a sort of a guy you could trust. He's good in the air. He's so experienced. He'd probably know how to spoil the man. And if you look at the other options that are there, right? So Shane Fives, maybe he's going to be okay to play the game. He would seem like the natural next guy to go to. Conor Gleeson has obviously played in the full back line. Sometimes I rather seen him out the field. Size profile-wise, not sure that particularly suits him. Ian Kenny, again, combative player, good hurler, not sure size-wise. Shane McNulty, the same. He probably would be more likely of that group, even though they're all a similar size profile. And after that, you just wouldn't be sure. I mean, Calum Lyons may mark Tony Kelly, and you could make a case that if Kelly decides, right, I'm just going to play corner forward, so that would decommission arguably Waterford's best deep attacking weapon. So you could imagine him playing full back, but it would feel like a massive waste of what's so good about this Waterford team, that they can run straight up the centre from anywhere in the field, really. So would he be in contention? I mean, it's obviously one of these things where Liam Cahill has to look at the entire thing, look at every player he has, who can play where, right? Can I afford to put Calum Lyons back there? Will I put Kevin Moran back there? So that's a tough one. And I think there's tough ones on both sides. You mentioned Shane O'Donnell being out as well, a concussion. I mean, that's serious enough stuff if it's keeping him out this length of time, and we wish him well. But there's definitely conundrums on both sides.
There definitely is. The Calum Lyons one is an interesting one. It wasn't, the real Tony Kelly when they played last year, and Lyons kind of dominated him. He obviously picked up that ankle knock at the start of a game. Yeah. And with the best will in the world, you're just not going to be the player that you normally are. He was visibly limping, despite what some commentators said. He was struggling, and he was never going to be himself, especially you have to be 100% coming up against Calum Lyons, particularly athletically, to even stay with him. So that's going to be interesting. As you say, Lyons will have to forego his probably best attributes, as in going forward and being able to score, to kind of quench Tony Kelly's threat. So it's going to be interesting to see there. When you were talking, I'm just wondering, is there a possibility then that if Prunty doesn't play, I think Prunty was running in straight lines at Waterford training the other night and only running at about 50%. So he does look under pressure. Is there a possibility that Kelly goes in around Shanter and Hoover's in around that full forward line, and they go after the full back line, and potentially with 2 rookie players in there? Just say if Conor Gleeson is full back on Shanter and has a size disadvantage, and Calum Lyons is put into that full back line as well, and Kelly Hoover's around him, and they try to go to town in that instance. So that's going to be really interesting. The role of Ira Daly is huge there then, providing a shield to that full back line as well, and they just can't be left exposed. But there's a lot of interesting questions and a lot of interesting matchups to look forward to, without a doubt.
Yeah, so plenty of comments coming in, and as always, get them in and let us know your thoughts on the game. Lionel Strongjaw, given that it sounds like Conor Prunty is going to miss the Clare game, who do you think will be full back? So yeah, we're definitely trying to work through that. Chris Conlon, Tony Kelly is way better than Austin Gleeson. Tony Kelly is probably the best hurler in the country at the moment, and of course we did that.
Did we mention Austin Gleeson, or is Chris just stating his opinion?
I think Chris is just going straight in with the opinion, and keep him coming, Chris. He's a regular commenter on YouTube. Lisa S videos, Adrian McGrath, I don't know, they were saying Prunty is doubtful, and Barron, of course, Jamie Barron as well, if he's not available, that's a massive one. But even just to tease out the point that you made there about having Tony Kelly inside with Aaron Shanahan, then who plays in the half forward line? And I'm just looking through, let's say, the game against Dublin a couple of weeks ago, and Clare put up 34 points that day in a win in Parnell Park, and they were very, very impressive. And around midfield, you had Cahill Malone there, you had Colin Galvin, who, you know, the couple of games I've watched him against both Dublin and Kilkenny, we know how good he is, but he's been out a long time, and I'm not sure he felt the weight of the ball more than 5 times between the 2 games. So that's a big conundrum for Brian Lohan. Does he start him? But anyway, if he persists with Galvin, Cahill Malone, and maybe Galvin midfield, certainly sounds good if they're both playing well. Then the half forward line, I'd imagine Aidan McCarthy's certainly going to be there. Maybe Ian Galvin, maybe somebody like, just looking at the team that selected the last day, Tony Kelly would have been out there. Shane O'Donnell played that day, Aaron Shanahan, and maybe Mark Rogers. Can they afford to have both Shanahan and Tony Kelly inside? Certainly Aidan McCarthy is a top player to have in the half forward line on form, but do they have enough lads on form around the middle 8 to be able to afford to put those 2 lads inside? Will the ball get to them?
Yeah, it depends, Shane. If it's, you know, the clear intended game plan that they're going to get ball inside to the 2 lads as often as is humanly possible, and that's going to be, and lads aren't going to be kind of dilly-dallying without the pitch, I think they probably can. You could probably throw maybe David Reedy into the mix there as well, and potentially David Fitzgerald could push back up if that's the way they're looking. But I think they can, and for stages anyway, you know, make Waterford maybe be uncomfortable in that full back line. Then you can, if the ball is drying up going inside, you can send Kelly on kind of a Roman roll, maybe put someone different, put a Ryan Taylor, put a Mark Rogers inside around Shanahan as well. I think it's important probably to have someone beavering around Shanahan, but it's just going to be interesting to see what way they go about it. It's funny, like all the talk about Clare, before the league started, and then when Antrim beat them, you know, they're on a downward curve and this rubbish that they're going to be the next Offaly and all this kind of crack. And all of a sudden now, they beat Dublin, putting up a big score in the league. They beat Kilkenny in the league. Like, they're coming in with plenty of optimism. And I know O'Donnell is out, and I know there's David McInerney's probably 50-50. I don't really see him starting because he hasn't played enough league. He might come in. I think he had a quad injury and now he's a groin injury. I think both are related. But like, they're coming in with, you know, a swell of optimism. You would have to say it. They really, really fancy their chances. And just something I'd ask you as well, like, if you're looking at, like, I always kind of think, you know, what does a given player have to do on a given day for a team to win? And you're just thinking, what does Tony Kelly have to score for Clare to win? How well does he have to play for them to win? Like, what sort of a tally does he have to put up? If, like, much of the focus is going to be on him. If he has one of those game of games, they're going to be very hard beaten. Like, but what sort of a tally do you think he needs to put up for Clare to win here?
Well, you'd imagine he's going to be having to look at 5 points from play anyway, and maybe get a goal in there somewhere along the line too. He'll join the Our Game Supporters Club at Patreon for €5 per month to get audio podcasts of the Hurling and Football Show and much more exclusive material.